So one statistic that stands out for today's local government election is the record number of political parties and independent candidates in the race. With that comes the question about the role that these smaller parties will play in deciding who will run towns and cities and what they will get in return. Voter turnout is also seen as a key indicator for a healthy democracy. With most first-time voters under the age of 29, will the youth shape politics for the next 5 years? Let's unpack all of these issues. We're joined now by Minhaj Jeenah. He is the executive director for non-profit organization My Vote Counts. Minhaj, thanks very much for joining us on this voting day, the 1st of November. It's a day that we've been building up to for some time. There are so many issues in the build-up to today. COVID-19 is just one of them. Let's perhaps start with the issue of voter turnout and how important it is that people do go out and vote in these elections. Some 13 million, I think, is the number of people who are eligible to vote, who haven't even registered to do so. How important is voter turnout in terms of the health of our democracy, the success of the election?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I think it is important, but I think it's also important to speak about the context. Right now, every study shows that South African citizens have, in the main, lost faith in institutions, in government institutions, and in the people that represent them, in politicians. We're also in a local government crisis. Almost all municipalities across the country are failing to listen to people, failing to represent people, and also failing to deliver services, and also are deeply corrupt and are unable to manage finances. And it's important to note that even traditional ANC voters, ANC supporters, are losing faith in their party. We've been following how communities are responding to the local government crisis in a number of municipalities, and there's an increasing number of community organizations who are calling for boycott of elections, and are calling for delegitimizing elections because of the crisis, because of the lack of faith in the electoral process. So I think that the numbers is going to be important to watch. It's going to be important for us to watch voter turnout, particularly with young people, particularly because this crisis that I'm speaking about affects young people the most. Unemployment is also a crisis. Young people, only 1 in 4 young people are employed. So all these different factors are going to play a role in the faith people have in this process, and their willingness then to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Good Governance Africa, in the run-up to these elections, they compiled a report around the performance of municipalities, using some key indicators, how the municipality is run, how many areas are under administration. The Northwest Province was of particular concern. 10 out of 18 local municipalities there currently under administration. KZN and Limpopo equally as worrying, as is the Eastern Cape, the Northern Cape, and as I mentioned, the Northwest Province already. There are all of these tools that are available in these elections that voters who are undecided can go to. There are websites around looking at your specific municipality. How has it performed? How has it delivered on key service delivery issues? Do you reckon that voters are making use of these kinds of tools to decide on how they will cast their ballots today?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think voters vote based on their lived experiences within their wards and within their municipalities, which I think would be a better indicator of how you experience local government. And I think voters use different tools as well to express their frustration and also understand local government better. Protests, trying to engage councillors, etc. I think these other tools are important for analysis, for understanding how to ensure we have better governance. But I don't think they're very appealing to voters.
Yeah. So how should voters decide on how to vote? I mean, if they're not using particular tools to see performance, in the local government elections, analysts will always tell us that those are sort of legacy votes. The party I've always voted for is the party I will continue to vote for. Local government is different because it is about all of those bread and butter issues, the potholes, the refuse removal, the wastewater treatment plants, and whether maintenance is done regularly enough to avoid sewage running down the middle of the road where I live, straight down my front door. How should we be deciding who we vote for, and are voters likely to move away from those legacy votes to the point where it might even be ideologically different, but I'm voting for a party that I think, or it's convinced me that it can solve the service delivery issues in my area?
Yeah, I think importantly, it's to understand the purpose of local government, the purpose of councillors in particular, and the purpose of these representatives is not to deliver services. What we're doing today and in the past 2 days is not to put technicians in power, people who are able to fix taps or able to fill potholes. So the narrative around service delivery, I think, is a problem. I think it undermines democracy and local democracy. I think what people do vote for, and what people should vote for, is people that can represent them, people that will listen, people that will be held accountable. So I think that's more important for strengthening democracy than the focus on service delivery. Service delivery is a crisis, but the way it will be resolved is through a deepening of democracy and strengthening of governance. So I think the focus in our analysis and understanding needs to shift a bit. I think that the question of legacy votes, particularly with historical ANC supporters, is important. About 2 months ago, we saw Cyril Ramaphosa went on his first campaign trail, ANC campaign trail through Soweto. And in a number of areas in Soweto where there's a traditional ANC stronghold, he was disrupted, very robustly disrupted. And activists who have been campaigning against blackouts for many years now, who are in the main historically ANC supporters, have said that if they don't receive electricity, they're going to withhold their vote. Yeah. So it's a threat to the ANC, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. More traditional ANC supporters withholding their votes.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Minhaj. We've just got live visuals there to the right of the screen. We're in conversation with Minhaj Jeenah, who is with My Vote Counts. But there's IEC chairperson Glenn Mashinini. He's busy casting his vote just about 14 minutes before voting stations officially open around the country. But I believe he's in Dainfern this morning, and he's casting his ballots there. Let's take you back to our conversation with Minhaj Jeenah. We'll be live to my co-anchor, Ayanda Nyati, in Dainfern a little later on this morning, and we'll see how voting went there with the IEC chairperson. Minhaj, my apologies. Please, will you continue? I think the issue that you're talking about is so incredibly important because there's also been discussion around, plenty of services suddenly being delivered in the run-up to these elections. RDP houses have been handed over. This kind of service delivery actually being used as an electioneering tool.
Yeah, and I think that's quite indicative. Services are being delivered because parties want votes, and that's what we should be using as voters to our advantage. We should be using our vote tactically. Our argument has been that today people shouldn't necessarily vote. I think in the main people are going to vote for parties they identify with, parties they have been voting for traditionally. But people who are undecided, we've been arguing that the vote should be tactical. So you shouldn't necessarily vote for the person you like the most or identify with the most. You should vote in a way that ensures you can get what you want. You should vote tactically. And this elections in particular is going to be important for that, because we're going to see more coalitions. 2016 was indicative as well. We didn't necessarily have coalitions, but we had parties coming together and having common agreements. And we've seen in other countries when these type of things happen, voters, communities, when they organize themselves, are able to pit parties against each other and get what they want and get what's needed. So I think that's how we hold politicians accountable.
Absolutely.
So tactical voting is going to be crucial today.
Minhaj Jeenah, let me thank you for your time this morning on Election Day. He's with My Vote Counts. He's the executive director there, giving us some analysis on a whole range of issues related to today's local government elections. In fact, polling stations opening in just about 12 minutes' time. They're open from 7 o'clock this morning until 9 o'clock this evening.